Every single time you stand in front of a grill or order a steak at a restaurant, there's a real chance you're making the wrong call. Not because you can't cook, not because you have bad taste, simply because nobody ever explained the difference. Ribeye is not the same as sirloin. Wagyu is not just expensive beef. And the tenderloin you think is the best cut on the menu, it might actually have less flavor than a steak that costs half the price. In the next 10 minutes, I'm not giving you recipes. I'm giving you the complete system behind every steak that exists, from the cheapest to the most expensive. So you'll know exactly what to order, what to cook, and why. Quick question before we dive in. Think about the last time you ordered a steak. Did you pick the cut yourself, or did you just ask the waiter for the best one? Drop your answer in the comments right now. And by the end of this video, you'll know whether that was actually a good call. What is a steak really? Most people think a steak is just a thick piece of beef thrown on a fire, but that's not even close to the full picture. The word steak actually comes from the Old Norse word steikja, meaning to roast on a spit over open flame. But over centuries, it evolved to mean something very specific, a slice of beef cut from a particular muscle in the animal's body. And that word, muscle, is the entire key to understanding steak. Every muscle in a cow moves differently. Muscles that move a lot develop tougher fibers, but they also build deeper, more intense flavor. Muscles that barely move stay soft and tender, but they often taste milder. Once you understand that, every steak on every menu suddenly makes sense, because you're not just choosing a name, you're choosing which muscle and what that muscle went through. The 7 major cuts. Let's go through the cuts that matter. From the most familiar to the most extraordinary. Number 1, sirloin, the smart choice. The sirloin comes from the upper rear section of the cow, a muscle that gets moderate movement throughout the animal's life. The result is a cut that sits right in the middle. Not the most tender, not the most intense, but the most balanced steak you can find. It holds up well to high heat. It's forgiving if you slightly overcook it. And it delivers solid flavor without destroying your budget. If you're ever standing in a restaurant and genuinely don't know what to order, sirloin is always a safe, reliable answer. Number 2, ribeye, the king of flavor. This is where things start getting serious. The ribeye comes from the rib section, a part of the cow that does almost no work. And because that muscle barely moves, it stores something incredibly important, intramuscular fat. You've probably heard the term marbling. Those thin white lines running through the meat, that's not just fat. That's flavor, moisture, and richness, all locked inside the steak itself. Not on the edges, not trimmed away, right in the middle of every bite. When a ribeye hits a hot surface, those fat threads begin to melt. They baste the meat from the inside. They create a richness that no marinade or sauce can replicate. Chefs in Tokyo often say, if you have a great ribeye, all you need is salt, heat, and time. Number 3, tenderloin, also known as filet mignon, the softest cut on earth. Somewhere deep inside the cow's body, there is one muscle that almost never moves. It sits tucked beneath the spine, doing almost nothing throughout the animal's entire life. That muscle is the tenderloin, and because it never works, it never toughens. The result is the softest, most delicate steak texture you will ever experience in your life. Cut it, and the knife glides through like butter. Bite into it, and it almost dissolves. But here's the surprise, and this surprises almost everyone. The tenderloin has less flavor than a ribeye. The tenderness comes at a trade-off. Less movement means less myoglobin, less fat development, and a milder overall taste. That's exactly why in fine dining restaurants across Paris, the filet mignon almost always comes with a sauce. The sauce isn't decoration. It's completing the flavor the cut doesn't fully provide on its own. Number 4, T-bone and Porterhouse. 2 steaks, 1 cut. Imagine a butcher taking a large cross section of the cow's back and slicing straight through the bone. On one side of the T-shaped bone, you get sirloin. On the other side, you get tenderloin. That's the T-bone. Two completely different steaks, two completely different textures, joined together by a single bone. The porterhouse is essentially the same idea, but with a significantly larger tenderloin section. In the United States, the USDA actually defines a minimum size for the tenderloin portion before a steak can legally be called a porterhouse. The challenge with cooking both? The sirloin and the tenderloin need slightly different temperatures to reach their ideal doneness. That's why chefs who specialize in these cuts always say lower heat, more patience. Number 5, tomahawk, for the table and the camera. The tomahawk is, at its core, a ribeye. Same muscle, same marbling, same flavor profile. The difference? An extended rib bone, sometimes up to 18 inches long, left completely intact and exposed. Does the bone add flavor? Scientifically, the answer is very little. Bone proteins don't transfer into the meat quickly enough during a normal cook to make a significant taste difference. But the tomahawk achieves something else entirely. It commands a table. It turns a dinner into a moment. If you're hosting a special evening and you want the room to go quiet when the plate arrives, this is your steak. Number 6, flank and skirt, the most underestimated cuts. Here's where most people leave money on the table, or flavor rather. The flank and skirt come from the abdominal muscles of the cow, sections that work constantly. That means tougher fibers, but also means something important, significantly deeper, more intense flavor than most premium cuts. The key is in how you treat them. Marinate overnight. Use something acidic, citrus, vinegar, yogurt. The acid breaks down the fibers and allows the flavor to penetrate fully. Then cook them fast on very high heat. And when you slice, always cut against the grain. That means cutting perpendicular to the direction the fibers run, which shortens each fiber and makes every bite dramatically more tender. Chefs in Mexico have been doing this with skirt steak for centuries. It's the foundation of great fajitas for a reason. Number 7, Wagyu, the legend. This is where steak stops being food and becomes an experience. Wagyu literally translates from Japanese as a Japanese cow, but the word carries a weight that goes far beyond the animal. Wagyu cattle are raised under some of the most carefully controlled conditions in agriculture. Specific genetics, specific feed, specific environments. Some farms maintain classical music in the barns. Some provide regular massages to reduce muscle tension and encourage fat distribution. The result is a level of marbling that exists nowhere else on earth. When you look at a properly graded Wagyu A5, the highest classification available, the fat is so thoroughly distributed through the muscle that the steak looks almost white. And when it hits your tongue, the fat melts at body temperature. Before you even apply pressure with your teeth, it's already dissolving. The sensation is unlike anything else in the culinary world. In 2023, genuine Japanese Wagyu A5 was selling for upwards of $300 per kilogram at retail. Is it worth it? If you cook it right, yes, absolutely. Once in your life, it's worth it. Now, if you think choosing the right cut is all you need to get a great steak, there's still one thing you're missing. And it might be the most important variable of all. Don't go anywhere. What's coming next might completely change how you think about beef forever. And if you're enjoying this breakdown, subscribe right now. The next video goes even deeper into how heat actually transforms protein and why most people overcook meat without ever realizing it. Doneness levels. The cut is only half the decision. The other half is doneness. And this is where most home cooks lose the game. Doneness isn't just a preference. It's a physical process that fundamentally changes the texture, moisture, and flavor of your steak. Rare, 46 to 52 degrees Celsius. The internal fibers have barely contracted. Almost all the natural moisture is still locked inside the muscle. The texture is soft, the center is cool, and the flavor is pure and raw. Maximum juiciness, medium rare, 54 to 57 degrees Celsius. This is the sweet spot. The fibers have contracted just enough to give the steak structure and resistance, but not so much that they've expelled the moisture. The juices are still fully present. The flavor from the fat has fully developed. 9 out of 10 professional chefs will recommend medium rare for ribeye and sirloin. This is not opinion. This is the temperature at which the cut performs its best. Medium, 60 to 63 degrees Celsius. The fibers are tighter. Some moisture has been lost. The steak is still enjoyable, still flavorful, but you've moved past the peak. A solid choice for anyone uncomfortable with a pink center. Well done, 71 degrees Celsius and above. At this temperature, the muscle fibers have fully contracted and expelled most of their internal moisture. The natural fat has rendered out entirely. The steak is firm, dry, and significantly less flavorful than it was at lower temperatures. Here's the honest truth. If you take a Wagyu A5, a steak that costs $300 per kilogram, and cook it to well done, you will eat a very expensive piece of dry beef. The single greatest advantage of Wagyu, the fat that melts on contact, is completely eliminated. Choose your doneness intentionally. It matters as much as the cut itself. The quick selection guide. Let me make this simple. Here's exactly what to choose based on your situation. Cooking at home for the first time? Get a sirloin. It's forgiving, affordable, and delicious. Cooking on a grill and want maximum flavor? Ribeye. The marbling protects it and delivers every time. Hosting a dinner and want to impress? Tomahawk for the visual impact. Filet Mignon for elegance. Tight budget but craving intense flavor? Flank steak with a full overnight marinade. It will genuinely surprise you. Special occasion with no limits. Japanese Wagyu A5. Medium rare, no sauce. Let it speak entirely for itself. The 3 mistakes that ruin every steak. 3 mistakes, almost everyone makes them. None of them are complicated to fix. Mistake 1, cooking straight from the refrigerator. A cold steak placed on a hot surface creates an immediate problem. The outside overcooks before the inside reaches temperature. Always let your steak rest at room temperature for at least 30 minutes before it hits the heat. Mistake 2, cutting immediately after cooking. When a steak comes off the heat, the internal juices are agitated and concentrated toward the center. If you cut right away, they spill out onto your cutting board. Let the steak rest for 5 to 10 minutes. The juices redistribute. Every slice stays moist. Mistake 3, pouring oil directly into the pan. A great steak builds its crust on a dry, extremely hot surface. Oil goes on the steak, not the pan. Brush the steak lightly with oil before it goes in. The dry pan creates the sear. The oil on the surface prevents sticking and promotes even browning. 3 mistakes, 3 simple fixes. The steak you've been trying to make is already within reach. A steak is not just meat on fire. It's a system. The cut, the doneness, the technique, and every variable in that system affects every other one. When you understand that ribeye is rich because of intramuscular fat, not because it's the best, and that tenderloin is tender because the muscle never worked, not because it's the most premium. That's the moment you actually know what you're eating. Now I want to hear from you. What's the worst steak experience you've ever had? What went wrong? And what's the best steak you've ever eaten in your life? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one. In the next video, we're going inside the science of how heat transforms meat from the molecular level and why most people unknowingly destroy their protein every single time they cook. If you don't want to miss it, subscribe now. It's completely free and it might change how you cook forever. See you in the next one.